The release of harmful nuclear, radioactive, biological or chemical substances is anytime possible. As they're mostly invisible and odorless, we cannot detect them with our senses. That's why they're so dangerous. After an NB or C incident, the engagement of NBC defense troops makes it possible to restore the full freedom of action to the contaminated forces, including their equipment and vehicles. The NBC Defense Company may be deployed as a whole or in part, depending on the scale and type of incident and the mission. In the aftermath of an NB or C incident, it's of critical importance to explore and detect the concrete expansion of the contamination as quickly as possible. In case that radioactive substances have been released, military radiometry vehicles can rapidly enter the area of operations and gain information on the presence and extent of radioactive contamination. Thanks to the overpressure inside the vehicle, the personnel are protected against contamination. With the help of measurement devices and personal dosimeters, they're able to control the amount of radiation to which they've been exposed. Aerial radiometry can be carried out at the same time with the aid of a detection sensor attached to a helicopter. On the basis of the data obtained by land and aerial radiometry, precise hazard maps can be drawn, which show the type of radiation and the substances released. The NBC detection vehicle can be used for detecting N, B, and C contamination. The crew can carry out NBC measurements, mark contaminated areas, and take smaller samples without having to leave the protection offered inside the vehicle. Due to all these measures, both military commanders and heads of civilian task forces are in a position to rapidly draw the respective consequences. In order to be able to take samples as close as possible to the so-called hotspot, the most contaminated area, specially equipped and trained soldiers wearing appropriate protective gear are deployed. They can also operate within buildings and in underground spaces. Such work is highly dangerous if mistakes are made. Therefore, the requirements for equipment and training are very demanding. If a B incident has taken place, filtered NBC suits are used. A ventilation system provides the person taking samples with air for breathing through special filters. The suit is overpressured to prevent the entrance of contaminated air. A special telecommunication system enables the samplers to communicate among themselves and with the team leader. Depending on the situation encountered, samples are collected of solids, fluids, and air. It's very important that samplers take the correct amount of sampling substance, that they pack it and label it correctly, and that log records are kept along the entire chain of transfer. Only if all procedures are strictly applied, the origin of the sample may be established later without any doubt in the laboratory. At the limit of the contaminated zone, an NBC decontamination line is set up. Both persons and equipment are decontaminated there. The packaged samples must also be decontaminated before being released for storage or transportation. Subsequently, the samples can either be analyzed in a mobile laboratory or they're sent via road or air to a reference laboratory. Mobile NBC detection offers the advantage of time saving, as samples can be analyzed and evaluated near to the location of release. Qualified instructions can thus be given more rapidly to the forces affected by the incident. These pictures show a mobile laboratory of the German Bundeswehr. After an NBC incident, contaminated persons and vehicles should be decontaminated as quickly and as thoroughly as possible. Here, the thorough NBC decontamination system is used. It consists of several containers that can be transported by land, air or sea. They contain logistical equipment that enables autonomous operation of the system for about 48 hours. Depending on the situation, the personnel, patient, equipment or vehicle decontamination module is used. It takes about 3 hours to build up the entire facility. Ideally, an area of 200 times 500 meters with firm surface, asphalt or concrete, should be available for this purpose. To prevent any surprise by contamination transferred by wind from the workplaces to unprotected persons, a Meteostation 08 is installed already during reconnaissance. It establishes the prevalent wind direction and automatically records meteorological data. On the basis of these parameters, it's easier to choose the correct location for the individual modules of the NBC decontamination site, as well as the waiting areas for contaminated or clean troops. The NC warning module provides additional safety, as it warns of N or C contamination in vicinity of the workplaces. If necessary, all modules can be operated without external supply of electrical power or drinking water. Every workstation has available electric power generators and illumination. 1,600 litres of surface water can be processed by a reverse osmosis water purification system to pure water. The water transport module ensures the provision of clean water, as well as wastewater disposal to and from the workplaces. For this purpose, there are various water containers available. The thorough NBC personnel decontamination module consists of containers 23 and 24. "13 soldiers wearing full NBC protection gear are deployed for operating the NBC personnel decontamination module. The contaminated persons are decontaminated one after another along 3 parallel decontamination lines. During this process, contaminated clothing is discarded according to a given scheme. Only at the very end may the NBC protection mask be removed. Thereafter, showers with soapy water are available in the shower tent. The decontaminated person is given provisional clothes. The system allows to process up to 50 persons per hour. Before possibly contaminated patients may be brought into a hospital or another medical facility, they must first be completely decontaminated. For this purpose, the NBC Defence Troops have set up a patient decontamination module that allows for decontamination of all types of injured patients, both ambulant or on stretchers. "32 military personnel are required for assembly and operation of the system. Approximately half of them are trained medical personnel. Similarly, as in the case of personnel decontamination, ambulant patients are decontaminated by the soldiers. In accordance to their injury, they depend on support. Medical soldiers take care of the wounds and change the bandages. Patients are subsequently showered with soapy water. Severely injured patients are moved through the various stations with a rail system while they remain lying on stretchers. Once contaminated clothing has been removed from the patient, he's disinfected with a diluted solution. During this procedure, special attention must be given to the injury. Only if patients no longer show any contamination are doctors allowed to treat their injuries and to attend to their state of health. Equipment, such as weapons that have been used in contaminated areas and may thus have come into contact with harmful substances, is cleaned at the Thorough Equipment Decontamination Module. Ten soldiers in full protective gear are required to operate the module. Equipment is first washed down with a mixture of foam and water. Afterwards, they are hosed down with clean water. Finally, the equipment is dried with compressed air. In this way, a surface of up to 150 square meters can be treated per hour. The vehicle decontamination module requires most space. Catch basins are installed with hoses and plastic foils to prevent ground contamination by wastewater. With a water pump, water is drawn from a reservoir to the decontamination point. contaminated vehicle is cleaned in 3 stages. First, dirt is removed at the pre-wash basin. At the decontamination basin, special foam is applied all over the vehicle. The foam must remain for approximately 30 minutes on the contaminated surface to be effective. At the last station, the remains of the foam are rinsed off. All the wastewater generated at the various decontamination modules is collected and prepared for correct disposal. Thorough decontamination of personnel, patients, equipment and vehicles can only be carried out by the NBC Defence Troops. They are enabling forces to safe continuation of their missions without obligation to wear NBC protective gear. The NBC Defence Troops, ensuring our safety with competence.